Hello everyone, it's Christine here and I am back to do some work and show you some progress and give you a few little tutorials as I am working on my Roxy Journal of Stitchery, my bag, and the bag that's going to hold my round embroidery hoops. And this is the front of the bag. Now in previous videos I'd got up to the point of thread painting. I hadn't yet finished the protea at the centre. So I've finished that now, so I'll talk you through what I did to finish and also a little dilemma that I have, and you can give me your opinions on that. And then I moved on to doing the stem and the leaves of the protea. Then proceeded to do some thread painting on the leaves underneath. The really exciting thing I discovered was that I can actually felt using wool, so using wools like this one or my eucalyptus based fibres. I can directly felt into my cotton base because it's got a wool blanket backing on it. And the great thing I discovered is that I don't even need to work on a felting mat because this frame has a depth to it. I can actually just felt straight into the piece and I'm not hitting the area underneath, and I don't need a mat. And so it makes it super easy. Originally I was thinking I was going to need to make these leaves off the piece and then sew them on, but nope, I was able to actually layer them up and felt them onto the piece itself with quite a few different types of felt. So I'll show you a bit of felting work when we come to do a little branch that I want to run across here to be sort of supporting these little gum blossoms. So we'll do some felting, and then I went on to felt most of the background. I haven't finished it off because again I thought I'd show you that using this beautiful blue merino silk. So it's 70% merino and 30% silk, and it's just gorgeous, and it's got lots of slightly different blues through it, which just creates the most wonderful background. I still think I can probably further refine my felting technique. I'm really just at the sort of early stages of my felting adventures, but I just love that I'm now able to combine it into my slow stitching pieces. And I've got further felting. I'm going to show you how I make these little gum blossoms. So if you're not in Australia, you might not have seen gum blossoms. Let me just show you how bright they actually are. I've got them on my camera here. So yeah, they're incredibly bright. They have everything from these little triangular to the more sort of rounded gum nut bases. And then I'll also show you how I felt these little wattle blossoms. And I've got a photo of them there as well. So I'll give you a little tutorial on that. I'll also show you how I did these raw edge applique leaves, which are my wattle leaves, and how I did these other leaves. These are just sort of will be coming out from the branch using some pieces of fabric from this old tapestry placemat. And then I'll show you how I'm stitching around just to anchor the raw edges of those in place. I'll show you how I've done and how I'm doing the thread painting for these. And so I use two different depths of wool from the beautiful Karlund yarns, where I got their sort of yarn ends. I got a beautiful bundle of those a while back, so it's nice to be using these. So I use the lighter greens here, and then the darker green underneath here. I'll do the lighter green on this leaf and the darker green underneath. I've drawn myself some lines that follow the pattern of the fabric, which will be the guide for this, which will be the darker greens, so that it's sort of like the darker ones recede into the background. I used the darker ones here where the leaf had a little twist in it. So quite a bit to show you, and yeah, as I mentioned, I think I'll show you how I felt down the background as well. But because I think it's going to be a lot of fun, I thought I'd start by showing you these gum blossoms. Now on this one, I've used a little bit of acrylic gold paint on the end of it because the gum blossoms tend to have a little bit of pollen-y stuff on the end, so I think that worked well. With this one, I haven't done the ends. Just thought I'd show you both versions. So Let's just put that to the side for a moment. And I am going to grab my little piece of felt that I use as a mini felting mat. I'm going to grab my peg. So this is a method I've come up with to create the little end bits, almost like a Guillard's knot, or the sort of the tufting. I'm trying to think what else it's called. The tufting bits that you do, where you have the bits come up and out. So what I do is get one of these vintage style closed pegs, although this is a more modern rendition of it. And then I just start wrapping my pink, because I want the bright pink. And the thread I'm using is a Metla quilting cotton, one I got secondhand. And I just overlap it over itself. I don't worry too much about that first little end piece. It doesn't really matter where that ends up. If it's sort of poking out, we can trim it. And you need quite a bit to get quite a nice voluptuous centre. And so this would work for other things where you want the tufty top, but you don't necessarily want to go through this Guillard's stitch, or turkey work. That's what I was trying to remember. Turkey work or Guillard's stitch. It's quite time consuming to get the tufts, but this is going to give us our tufts without too much effort. Just a few more. I do want it nice and voluptuous. So I'm then going to leave myself an end. Get rid of that little bit of thread that's trying to tack itself on. Move my thread out of the way. And then at the top or the bottom, it doesn't matter too much where. I'm going to put some knots over the bottom of it. So I'm using the slit in it to my advantage. I don't quite know how I even came up with it. I was just sort of thinking, oh, what have I got in the room? And I thought, oh yeah, I could slide the bit off it. And then I thought, oh, how handy is it going to be, because it will make the knotting process really easy. And so I'll just put another little knot through the bottom, because this is what's going to hold our threads in place. And then here's where the slit also comes in handy. We're going to snip the ends, and that's going to give us 2 tied bundles. And then I'm going to do a little bit of wrapping. So I'm just wrapping the end, and then I'm going to put my needle through, and I'm going to tie an anchoring knot, and then I'll do that a few more times. Oops, just unthreaded our needle, but that's okay. Thankfully it's a nice big one. I just like to use the big ones for this, because I worry a small one might kind of break off when you're trying to maneuver it through. And so just because I want to be extra sure to be sure, oops. And you can always use a set of pliers if you really, really need them. So there we go. That is our little blossoms. At this point, I don't like to trim them, because the first one I did, I actually trimmed it down too much. I kept it in my little jar of spare feltingy bits, but I think I trimmed it down too much. So I like to keep it a bit longer, but I will use that for something else. So that is the the top of our flower. And then I'm going to use this yarn, which is a Shetland olive. So it's a conservation breed from the Shetland Islands. And so this has been dyed the olive colour. Obviously, I shouldn't say obviously the sheep aren't green, but I haven't seen many green sheep. And so I've tried a few different methods for making these. I've tried one where I wrap it around and then felt it, but I think the best method I've found is to make a little bally shape, and then to sort of hollow it out in the process. And I've actually found it easiest to start it off by just starting to mat it or felt it with my hands, and then I can get my little single felting tool. As I say, I'm still in my early days of felting, so I'm sure there's many others that show things better, but it's something I enjoy, and I just think it's going to add a whole lot of extra interest to my slow stitching projects and give extra textures. I just love with the leaves that I've been able to get, quite a bit of difference. I hope it's not. I think it might be shaking the camera stand a tiny bit, even though my camera's attached to the shelves next to me. I think maybe the table touches it, so I'm not sure. Unless, I mean, normally you'd keep your mat down when you're felting, but apologies if the camera does move ever so slightly. I now need to shape it into a bit of a ball. Good thing about felting is it's pretty forgiving. If it doesn't kind of work one way, you can just kind of reshape it and have another go. And certainly for this type of felting, the single tool with the single needle works really well. When you're felting on a bigger area, that's when you can use the device that has more needles in it. You don't want to stab yourself. I have actually managed to do that generally later at night when I'm just wanting to keep going with my crafting. And so I just snipped off the little top sort of endy bits. I just thought I probably have enough felt in play. And now I'm just felting down into the center to kind of make a little, but I think I want to actually just get the top of the ball a bit more defined and a little bit less thready. So I'm just going to sort of felt around the top. So I've turned it sort of upside down, and I'm just felting down into where the top of the gum nut would be. So that's just helped to start to just give it a bit more. Actually very excited because I got my first Maker's Flock box today in the post. I only ordered it from the UK last Tuesday, and it came all the way from the UK to Australia in a week. So stand by for a little unboxing of that. You might have seen Annie Claxton already unboxing. She was the one that we call each other enablers of each other. Arty Farty Annie, she's fantastic to watch. Head over and check her out if you haven't. And she's been, she absolutely loves felting, and I'd been watching her unbox her Maker's Flock boxes, little felting boxes, and I thought, I won't be able to get those because the postage would just be totally disproportionate. But I discovered that when you take out a subscription, it works out at such a good price, and so I was able to get it, and for the cost of 3 coffees a month, I can get a beautiful box of little felting supplies, because I just love discovering different fibres. It's become a real little passion. I can see why it's a passion for Annie, because it is just such fun, playing with fibres and being able to create dimensional shapes, essentially like stump work. So that's a good enough one. I might just trim off my slightly little fringy pieces. And that's the other good thing with felting, is you can just use your scissors just to kind of get rid of anything that's a bit too fringy. And then I might just put a bit more of an indentation in the middle. And then I sometimes, for this, because I want to be able to take it through the bottom, I sometimes use my bigger needle then just to kind of make my little center spot. There's my bit. I just use my smaller needle, I think, for the task. So I hope you're having a great day or a great week. I can't believe it's only Tuesday. I say to a colleague today, I sort of said, oh, when did we receive that? Oh, we received it on Monday. And I said, oh, so a few days ago. And then she said, no, that yesterday. And I was like, oh, is it only Tuesday today? My goodness. Feels like I've worked an entire week already. So pretty happy with how that's sat in. So I'm just going to put a little holding stitch in the bottom, and then we can just sort of felt up around just to tighten up the little gum nut around our bundle. I'll leave that on there because I can take that through and use that to anchor, do a first anchoring stitch into the fabric. So that's how our little gum nut looks, which I do love. And now all I'm going to do is just do a few extra little felting stitches just to kind of get it to wrap really nicely around the threads. That's pretty good. And again, sometimes here I might even just use my fingers just to kind of give it a little roll. Just rolling it around and just sort of felting down the side of it just to make sure it's nice and tight. I think that's pretty good. So we need to work out where we want to position it. Let me just move my bits and pieces out of the way. I think I'll just cluster it in because I do generally sort of hang out in clusters. We're not going to need too much of a branch along here actually, I don't think, but that's okay. So I'll be standing up a bit, but then I'll come through with some green thread and properly anchor it in place. I'll just bring the pink thread through to the back because that way it will also help anchor that center piece. Put that in my quartz jar. There's my needle. I was just thinking, where's my needle gone? So it's sitting up, so I'll get my green thread, just using a regular sewing cotton. And I think we'll kind of angle it over that way a bit. One thing with felt is you do get fibres sort of hanging around. I've got a bit of blue fibre. So I'm still working out which is the best order, whether you felt the background first and then in some ways it is good because then you can kind of stitch over it like I've done here. But it probably depends on your project, your application. Originally I didn't know that I was going to have the sky all around. I thought I was actually going to stitch some more of the elements from the fabric, but I actually wanted this just to be a real focal point. The other thing I haven't yet totally decided is whether I'm going to extend the branch over right to the edge. So maybe let me know in the comments if you've got a thought on whether I should extend that right to the circle, because I'm undecided at the moment. I figured I can come back to that once it's all, probably once I actually get down to stretching it over my little hoop and can have a look at it in that form. But it's been really nice to stitch into it. I really do like this, this square embroidery. I guess you can't call it a hoop. It's a hoop. A hoop, I guess, needs to be circular. This embroidery frame. That's what it is, a frame. So I'm just using my green thread just to kind of get my gum nut to sit where I want it to sit. Oops, and unthreading my thread, but that's okay. So I'm just coming up just enough times to make sure the pink is sort of well anchored, but also just to make sure my gum nut is behaving the way I want it to behave. No misbehaving gum nuts will be accepted here, thank you. Try not to knot our thread. But I think I'm just going to tighten. That's good. That's sort of wrapped it nicely around. So I think that's pretty. Good. And I just love how it's coming off the piece. This isn't going to be a bag that I'm like carrying every day. It's going to be a bag that hangs in my craft room with my embroidery hoops. It might go on the odd trip with me, but mainly it will be a nice little decorative storage place. So I might actually leave that thread threaded, because I might now, while that's threaded, come up and show you how I created these little raw edge applique pieces, and then I can I'll see if I add another one. Maybe I will add one up there, or maybe I'll add one, or I can always take one of these off and just show you. But basically, yeah, once I've cut them out, I just glue them down and then I'll stitch into them. But I'm using this fabric, and I guess I wanted to show you that you don't have to, have a particular like leaf patterned fabric. You can look for other fabrics, and I like to look for fabrics that have some interesting design elements. I don't generally want to have a fabric that's got too much of a regular design in it. I did play around with this, but I wasn't as enamored with that. I didn't want to use something that had, for example, a regular spot. And so this was good because it had some interesting elements that I was able to cut and use in it. So for example, along here, you probably can't see that much of it, but this one had quite a bit of decoration on it. These ones have just got little decoration. The other thing I did was use the back of the fabric in a few cases, because it does give a bit of other interest to it. But that's probably a perfect example of where you can get a nice, interesting fabric pattern out of a section of it. So if I did want to, for example, have a leaf coming up here, I could either use it with that side showing, or I could turn it over and have this side showing and have that coming up there. So I can do that. I don't think that will ruin it to add it on. So I'm just going to trim the little whitey endy bit off. I'll just give it another little trim, because I think I might use it this way. So I might even just take that little bit of grey off the side. And yeah, I think I'll put that like that. And so I just used my Yoo-hoo glue. So not a particular fabric glue, but I find it works great because it easily, the pieces easily peel off if you do need to reposition them, or you decide you don't want them where they are, but it holds them without needing pins, which we love. Well, I love anyway, because I hate pins. And so I followed the broad design that was on the fabric, but really just freehand cut them out. If you wanted to follow a design and get an exact shaped leaf, you could trace it with some tracing paper or baking paper, or put it up to a window if it didn't have the blanket on the back, and then cut around that on the piece of fabric. But I just did mine freehand. And then what I'm now doing is either doing stitches around the outside, or for these ones just doing stitches down the middle of them to hold them in place. I think they'll be fine like that. So I've already done that on a couple of them, but I'll just show you on a few more how I am approaching that. Probably shouldn't have jumped up that far with the cotton on the back, but I'm not too fussed. Now that has cinched the fabric in a little bit. I'm just going to reposition it at the end. Just put a stitch in to hold that down so it's not curling up. Keep banging my scissors, so I'm going to move them out of the way. So I'm just doing my version of backstitch, which you can see in my dictionary of stitches. There's a few different ways to do backstitch. Mine's a forward and back. But it gives you a nice flat surface on the back. Oops. Except when you unthread your needle, then you get nothing on the back. Nothing on the front, nothing on the back. But again, with this sort of overstitching of raw edge applique, you can really do whatever you want. You could do little radiating stitches out from it if you wanted your leaves to look a bit more spiky. It's really just a very free technique. You could do different patterns, different colours on different leaves. I like to do one final stitch over the end just to kind of hold that down in place. And as I say, the Yoo-hoo glue doesn't hold it tightly, so sometimes they will lift a bit as you stitch. So sometimes you need to just sort of hold them down with your thumb as you get stitching. So it's just going to add some nice detail to the leaves. I think it's a really lovely effect, and I love that this piece has almost become a little sampler of different techniques, something that I've been able to experiment with, which is good because I'll be able to look back at it as my felting techniques evolve. No doubt my applique. I've been watching Collage Quilter. I love what she does with her projects. So yeah, I want to play more with collage quilting. Well, yeah, collaging really won't necessarily make them into quilts, but collage quilters techniques. She's on YouTube as well, from the US. Oops. And thank you again to everyone who has subscribed. I saw that I ticked over to 5,000, so got to get my head around, get out a few goodies for a future video where I will be sharing a little giveaway with you folks. I've actually got two little sets of packages, of one fibre related and one, or sort of fibre tool related, and one fabric related. I've just got to look those out and work out what the entry process will be, and we'll go from there. It's funny because I've only just posted the video with my giveaway from my 4,000 subscriber, because it takes a bit of time to get there, and then I was waiting to, even though Post had told me that it had got there, I was hoping to be able to get in touch with Judy, who was the winner, to make sure she had received it. But I swear sometimes I think my email is eating emails. I've had instances recently where I send things and then they're not in my sent folder. And I've heard other folks saying they're having issues, so who knows what's going on. So I've just got that edge sitting up and I want this edge to be underneath. So I just use the end of a needle just to give it a little bit of primping, preening. So I'll just finish this thread off and then we can move on to maybe doing some wattle, and then we can do some background felting, and then we can come and do some thread painting on the leaf, I think. Giving you a flavour of all the different, oh, and I've got to show you how I'm working around these leaves as well, so maybe we'll do that next actually. And then we'll do the wattle. But yeah, this is an example where the fabric had a nice little pattern, and it almost looks like little holes in the leaves, or all sorts of things, which you definitely get because that's a leaf with a natural little, well, not natural, or something would have had a bunch of that, and that's one from the eucalyptus tree as well, albeit dried, so again it's changed colour a bit. Yeah, it's amazing how the blossoms, when they dry, they go a lot darker than the pink that they are. I did actually go out into the street to see if I could grab one, but it was just too dark out there. I couldn't see on the tree, and I think at night they do tend to close in a bit as well. So I will finish that off there. Yeah, I've been very naughty there, travelling my thread up the piece, but that's okay. I'll just do some stitches over it later. So I was just starting to watch Leanne from Leanne's Crafty Cupboard before. I'm looking forward to getting back to her video. I just thought I better get this filmed before it gets too late, because who knows, it takes ages to load up. Probably won't post this tonight, I don't imagine either. Okay, so let me show you. I'll just get a bit more green. I'm just using the same green, just a regular sewing cotton. And then, yeah, I've actually got to show you the felting of the branch as well. Still lots to do. So let me just show you down here, because this leaf at least is sort of unobscured. So I'm just going to do little nipping stitches just over the edge of the leaf, and I find it easiest to come up outside of where the leaf is and then to stitch into it. Because if you come up on the inside of the leaf where you've got that raw edge, it will sometimes fray it even further. Whereas with this, you're just kind of pincering it down by going over it. And so I just work my way around doing that, and just going in far enough that it does hold it in place. And as I mentioned, for these leaves, I cut them out. Didn't follow the exact leaf shapes, just used sections of them, but I loved that these had already had that sort of variation in the leaves, so it just gives a really nice sort of patination to the leaves. Visual interest. Almost looks like I've woven them really finely. So this piece was originally inspired by Fleur Wood's amazing sort of floral embroideries, but I'm really happy that I've been kind of able to take it in my own style direction by using the felting and some of the raw edge applique as well, and the thread paint. Oh no, I mean, yeah, Fleur does do the thread painting, but yeah, sort of my style of thread painting. But I quite like the raw edge applique, because I do like a little bit of sort of fraying edge on things. I think it does give a more natural look. So up here I've got quite a bit of fraying on the side of that leaf. That one I have actually stitched down, so I do like it. So with the felting, when I am doing this, I just sort of push it out of the way, and then I can always felt it back more closely around the surface once I'm done. I'll show you that as well. So if my one encouragement would be just to think about playing with different styles. You can combine different forms of textile or fabric art in the one piece, and to me it adds visual and textural interest, and it's fun. That's the main thing. I can literally get lost in I've been so bad lately. I've been going to bed really late. By the time I'm getting to sleep, it's pretty much midnight, and every night I keep saying I won't do that again, and then invariably it happens. So I do need to wind in my enthusiasm, but I just get into such a blissful, happy state. Tonight I came up straight after dinner. Last night I'd stayed down with Travis on the couch. He wanted mummy cuddle time, so I stayed down with him. He's being a bit of a, well, I mean, he's always been he loves his mummy, but he's been quite a mummy's boy at the moment. He's actually going to have his first time staying home alone. This Friday we've got to go, sorry, it's not that we've got to go. We are going to a funeral for Alex's uncle, who actually not his true uncle, because it's his dad's cousin, but they call him Uncle Bruno. Lived to a ripe old age of 92. So going to the service to honour his life. But yeah, Bruno was very close to Alex's dad. They lived just a few streets away and would see each other every day right up until recently when, Bruno's health really, really went downhill. Just awful how that happens. It's getting older ain't fun, is it? I shouldn't say that. I still think of myself as pretty young, but I guess the ailments get more frequent when you're older, and sometimes it's a bit harder to bounce back. So this bit's giving me a bit of grief. I'm just going to, actually I'll just leave that. No, actually what I'm going to do is show you how to felt this down, because it's sort of coming off around the edge because I had left it a bit looser, and it is a bit harder because the frame's at the edge. But felting things down is as simple. I'm going to just use my single tool here because I've got the frame at the edge and I don't want to blunten or cause or break one of my multi-tools. I just get those bits. I can add those bits back in later. And that's how the felting is, as simple as that. And then if you want to kind of bring in other bits, what I've kind of discovered here is it's nice to work out what direction you're going to have your felt going and kind of try and stick to that. Although I've got a little bit of a nice sort of like almost like the wind is moving, or it reminds me a bit of a Van Gogh sort of effect. So I'm happy with that too. As I say, this is kind of my experimental sample piece of combining some of these newer techniques with some of my older techniques and just working out how it all goes together. But at least that's kind of now got this not all wifty around. I still have this piece. I just try and sort of get it back laying in a straightish direction. And sometimes you get slightly little darker lumps in it, and I will usually sort of remove that out. I just do that here. And you can obviously sort of keep felting. The more you felt it, the more it will adhere into the fabric. But at least that's giving you an idea of just how easy it is. And then let's do the branch along here. So I'm going to use some of this one, which have I? It's my North Rameldze, and that's a conservation breed. And so yeah, it's a natural coloured one. And I did have a bit of that here. So I'm using this, and then I'm using the quite deep eucalyptus. So I think I'll start my branch over here where the leaf is. I'm just going to sort of condense this down a bit to help me start to felt it in. And again, I'm just using my single felting tool, which just has a single needle on it. I just love that these were designed by a couple, a man and woman engineer, wife and husband, in Victoria's high country, and these are made in Melbourne now to their design. And I bought this directly from them when we were up in Alpine, Victoria. It was just such a happy coincidence that I was looking to buy actual fibres and came across the felting tools, and they are just they had rave reviews from the felting community when I just listed on their website. And there are some really major felters overseas that swear by these tools. So I think I'll have my branch, just because I want something that these little gum blossoms would be coming off. So I'm going to bring my branch down to my leaf here. This is where I'm not following the actual design that was on the fabric underneath. I just kind of used that as a starting point, and then I've been able to improvise. These leaves were from the design, these leaves were from the design, that leaf, and this I sort of broadly followed, but went sort of freehand, cut them out and stuck them over the top. So that's given me the branch starting to come down. And then I want to use some of the beautiful richly coloured brown. So let me find where my brown's gone. There we go. So this is eucalyptus. So it's made from the wood of the eucalyptus, 100% biodegradable, and it's beautiful and sheeny, as you can see. And it just, look at it when it pulls off, it's yummy. So, wondering, I might just take a tiny bit to use on this bit down here. So I'm just rolling that between my fingers again. I find that's good if I'm just wanting to apply something small. Not sure if that's an official felting technique, but that's how I do it. And then I probably don't know if I even need all of these along here. Probably too much actually, so save a bit for later. So I'm just going to kind of lay them down first of all. Just don't need them to go any further past there. I'm just using the tip of my tool just to kind of angle them where I want them. But yeah, those eucalypt, that was what originally, the eucalypt fibres, which a lovely lady at the Fleur Woods Art Retreat had a bag of them and shared some with me, and so yeah, I found out where she'd got them from, Wool Chambers, and looked them up, but that's when I got all these other lovely fibres as well. So but yeah, I'll be interested to compare what I've got through Wool Chambers with the ones that I've got from the Makers Flock in the UK, and then the lovely ladies from a sheep farming and a felting and other fibre arts school in the US have offered to send me some of their, I think some crewel wools, so I'm really looking forward to getting to try theirs as well. Because they were wanting some people to trial and give them some feedback, and I said absolutely. If you're happy to send to Australia, I'd be happy to do that. Because I'm just so interested in trying different fibres, and I think they were doing some variegated dyeing, and you know how much I love my variegated. So yeah, that's made a beautiful little branch coming down. I almost think I might add a bit more of this to this branch, because I do have this left over. In fact, I should first of all use this little bit just to the branch over here, because it doesn't have as much sheen as the one that I've just done. And it'd be a shame just to lose those fibres or get them lost on the desk, so I may as well add them in. As I say, it's just that nice sort of layering that you can do with felting, which gives interest. Like those leaves, I've layered even just little ends of threads, like the ends of the threads I was using for the thread painting. That's what I've used to just felt those in. And it's nice to have a break from, sometimes I know folks say they get really sore hands from doing like thread painting or lots of intense stitching. So the felting's been good because it's a different sort of motion and feel. So I think it's giving my hands a good break also. But it's fun. That's the main thing. It's fun, and you can get some really good effects. And I was surprised, like these things were only a few dollars for each of them, because you're not getting a huge quantity. Like I think these were like 20 or 40 grams. They've not got their grams written on them, but most of them came out at just a few dollars, and that's going to last me. Even where I've done the sky, I've still got so much of the blue left. And the great thing is, if I use them up, then I get to do another order from Wool Chambers. So hey, it's a win-win situation. Yeah, I think the eucalypt does take a little bit more to felt it in, just because it's a bit more a bit more slippy, but it will definitely felt. And so I hope this is giving you confidence that you too could have a play with felting. You can get cheap felting equipment too, and in fact if you are wanting to try felting, you do stay tuned for my little although actually no, I think I've actually got a little punch. I've got to see what it is. Dad gave me some stuff with some monk's cloth. I'm trying to remember if it's a felting tool or a little punch needle tool, but because I've already got a good punch needle tool, I thought I would gift it away. I think his friend over in China, when he sent them the monk's cloth, yeah, just sent it as a little freebie. So yeah, I just love that effect. I hope you can see, even though it's obviously nighttime here and I've just got my lights on. So that's that, and I reckon now we can move on to doing our little bits of our wattle, so our yellow wattle. And I was trying to remember what I did these ones with, because I did that a few days ago and they've been sitting in my jar. I think I might have used some of the yellow from here, and then some of, I think I did definitely, because there's a little sort of tufty bit sitting out, and then some of the saffron eucalyptus one. So this is another one of the eucalyptus dyed, and it's saffron. Isn't it lovely? And I think I just sort of combined these. You can use like dog grooming sort of brushes to mix your colours, but for something this small I can just do it with my fingers. And then I think I'll do my typical little technique of rolling it around to get it into a ball, and then I'll start felting it. I think I might have even mixed a bit of white in with those originally, because I've got a whole lot of beautiful white sort of, I guess, a mixing wool, so Bergschaf. So I might just mix a bit, because I think that will just help to sort of just make it a tiny bit less intense. So let's give that a go. Oops, come back. Just get the white a bit better mixed in. I was just looking a little bit too whitey white. And so that is going to condense down in size as we felt it. If it is too big, we can always trim it down with the scissors and then just sort of keep felting it. With this single felting tool, I have to be careful not to do it on an angle, because you can end up breaking your felting needle. I've done that once because of my poor technique as I was starting out, but I guess you've got to learn, don't you? But do be careful if you're doing it this way, with your fingers close. Probably could have mixed the white in a smidge more, but that's okay. I do think I've probably gone too big, so what I might do is, where I've not mixed the white in as well, I might just trim that down and then give it another roll. It's almost not getting a circle there. I think I've managed to get a tiny bit of green rolled in as well, but that will happen, I suppose, because I am felting on a surface where I've played with the green before. Could actually turn it over if I don't want the green. That might be a smarter idea. But again, the wattle blossoms go through all sorts of coloration as they start off quite intense, and then as they dry a bit more and mature a bit more on the tree, they do take on the darker colour. I think that's pretty good as a little one. I mean, I could keep felting it, but I don't want to go too long, and I don't want to go so long that I end up skewering my finger. So, as I mentioned before, with these other ones, I had just felted them onto onto the fabric, which I think I can do again. I'm just wondering where I want them. Maybe I'll put this one over here. But if you didn't want to felt them on like this, you could come up and put a stitch through them. See, I think I was moving my felting needle in the wrong direction just then before as well. It's losing its shape a little bit. I'll just see if I can bring the sides back in without bending my felting needle. I do think that's still a little bit too big, so I'm actually sorry. I'm just looking at it going, no, I think that's still too big. I'm going to just give it a further little small bit, and I think I will actually stitch it on rather than felting it on so that it does stay a bit more bobbly in shape. So I've got some yellow yarn. I'll use my big needle because it is easier coming through from the back with that. I think it will go through the ball okay. Oops, there's my ball. I'll pop through over here. Oops, did I not try enough of a knot in the back? It would seem so. Even though I've got the wool blanket, it's not hard to stitch through at all, and if anything, it's actually probably a bit too easy to pull through. So I'll just anchor it off on the back first of all, and then I'll pop through here. Through there and there. And then I think I'll put another one further up. I'm trying to see where's my other bits that I've just been trimming off them gone. Don't know if that was one I'd made earlier. Oh no, that was a bit I trimmed off, and there's another bit over here I think. So we might try and resuscitate these as well. Hopefully, because they've been somewhat felted, I won't need to do too much felting on them. I did something very dangerous then. I looked up at the camera to see what you could see, and I thought, no, I really shouldn't be doing that when I have a sharp implement in my hand. I think one of these gum nuts got a little bit of Christine DNA on it, because I wasn't paying attention. So yeah, combining felting and slow stitching, stump work, thread painting, raw edge applique, all sorts. And so I think I will need to do another, because we always go for odd numbers, don't we? Maybe will I mix the white into this one, or will I make this one a bit more vibrant? Let's see how far I can get with the rolling technique. And then I'll just do a little bit of felting. Nope, that way. I suppose I could always, I'm just thinking, if I don't want to have my fingers in there, just wouldn't want to hit the needle with my felting tip. I'll felt it a bit, I'll give it another little rolly roll. You can sort of feel when it's felted enough, because it kind of becomes a bit denser, whereas this I can feel still has sort of like a hole in the center. That's pretty good, I think. Just rethread our. They really do remind me of the little wattle blossoms. I think it's got a good colour. So I'll put one up here, I think. It's just about having that random sort of layout. Because it helps convince the eye that it is actually a nature piece. So yeah, as I said before, Travis will be doing his first time being at home by himself, because in all other times either Alex or I have been out or he's gone places with us, so he's never actually had to spend any time alone. So what I'm going to do now, hopefully I'm still on camera, is just sort of give them a tiny bit of felting just to sort of obscure where the stitch was. I think that's pretty good. That's just this one has flattened out a bit in the process of stitching it on. A bit of precision felting on it, and maybe a bit of pinching it up. But I reckon that's pretty good. So we might move on. We don't have long left before the hour mark, so I'll just quickly show you how I have been doing the thread painting. But you've seen me thread paint before, but I'll just show you the split stitch that I'm using for the leaves. And it might even be easier to show you on one of these veins, because I'm really using the same stitch throughout. So let me just take a bit of this darker wool, which I've used to outline the leaf. And I'll just do one of the little veins on the leaf, because I can't believe an hour has elapsed. Look what happens when you're having fun. So I'd usually just start at the top or the bottom, but I'm just going to start in the middle so you can see. And then I've put a knot in. I'm just going to do a stitch forward, and then I'm going to pop up halfway there, approximately halfway along my previous stitch, and then come forward again. And you just keep doing that, and that's a split stitch, and it gives you this lovely effect that you can see on the leaves here. It does use a bit more wool because you are sort of coming up within the previous stitch. It's almost like a back stitch, backwards and forward stitch, but even more overlapping than that. But it fully sort of fills in the area, and I think it is a very good one to use on trunks and to use on leaves. And so I just keep, and because I'm using a variegated thread, I'll tend to like normally work from one side and then up the other, and then I try and distribute it, not do the next little sort of vein point straight away, so that the colours get distributed around, and that way you get that really nice variegation. And it just makes something that looks even more natural. And that's why I kept adding layers into the felted ones, because I thought, yeah, I want them to have that, I don't want them to look solid. And so yeah, I usually go up or down, or just jump up a couple of stitches, and I just drawn on with my friction marker, but it's all going to be covered anyway, so you could even use a pen if you really had to, or a pencil, because you're not going to be able to see, so I won't even have to heat erase, which you can do with the friction markers, and that just gives me some extra guidelines. The pattern already had some veins within the leaf, but again, I don't like to just do my leaves really straight. I want to kind of have them having a sense of direction, and that's what the sort of more curving lines give you. And again, I think with these pieces, it's just about thinking about the layering and the depth. Even up here with the applique leaves, laying some of them over the top of others, so that it gives that sense of it's not flat. You've got dimension. So here's an example of where I'm going to work up the other side. You can sometimes go forward and then back, or sort of back and then forward, like I did there. Yeah, turning a corner. So I probably better sign off because we are at the 1 hour mark. So thank you so very much for watching, and do take care. And yeah, give me your thoughts on whether I should go around and do the outlining around all of the bits of the flower, and also whether I should extend this branch right over to the edge of the hoop. But yeah, I'll hopefully by the time I post this video, I'll have this at least finished with the sky done, so that I can post that as the picture on the front of the video. Thanks everyone, and take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.